right, well, thanks everyone for coming. My name is Emily Wolfram, and I'm the Executive Director of the Montana Performing Arts Consortium, also known as MPAC. And our workshop today is called Connecting with Your Community, Marketing Tips and Tricks for MPAC Organizations. And I wanted to share a little bit about myself before I dive in. In addition to being the Executive Director of MPAC, I also freelance as a website designer and marketing consultant. And so when I'm not running MPAC or going camping, as you can see here, I'm building websites and helping various businesses and organizations communicate the value of what they do using different tools. I have a bachelor's degree in cello performance and arts administration. I don't actually have any real formal training in marketing or design or anything like that. My first real job in marketing and communications was as the coordinator of marketing and communications at the Hart School Community Division in Connecticut. I had been temping for that organization with my arts background. It was a music and dance school, and they wanted to offer me some kind of full-time role so I would stay on. And so they created this position, and they did interviews and they hired me for it. And since then, I've worked in different types of roles in the arts and in nonprofits, and communicating value has always played a role in what I do. It's sort of been a trial by fire journey at times, but I found that that's okay because the world and the way we do things changes so fast, and that being successful isn't really about the knowledge that you bring. It's more about how well you learn something new and can adapt. And I wanted to make that point because of the audience that I had in mind when I decided to be the speaker for this workshop instead of hiring someone else to do it. I was thinking about our MPAC organization members who are mostly volunteer run, maybe have few or maybe no staff at all with a background in nonprofit management or marketing or other things that that we need to run a venue or a performance series. So that's who I had in mind, and that's my background that I bring to this, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's agenda, first we'll go over nonprofit freebies and deals that are worth knowing about. Then I'll talk a bit about marketing and communications fundamentals. And then lastly, I'll talk about how we use those tools in the first bullet point and the concepts in the second bullet point to hopefully help you achieve goals that you have for your arts organization. So without further ado, let's go into part one. And just to double check, can I just get a thumbs up from everyone on if you can hear me okay and if everything's going okay on the tech side for you? Okay, awesome. Great. And also feel free to raise your hand or put in the chat if you have a question. I'll try to check it periodically. And thanks again to everyone for introducing yourself, and welcome. All right, so part one, favorite nonprofit freebies and deals. So let's see, I'm gonna go over some cheap or free tools that I like, and I'll highlight the ones that I think have a manageable learning curve for someone like me or like you that may not have a formal training in marketing and design and like building websites and all that other stuff. The first tool or resource I really want you to know about is TechSoup. This is a site and an organization that provides deep discounts on many different useful business tools. And I've put up a screenshot of the product category so you can see what types of products they offer. You can also go to the TechSoup website and pull up their catalog and view it without signing in or creating an account or anything. So you can sort of shop around before you go further. If and when you do decide to purchase something from them and you want to use that nonprofit rate or discount, you will need to validate your organization's 501c3 status to fully access those benefits. With TechSoup and most of the sites that I'm going to review with you, validating your nonprofit status will involve something like having your EIN or a scanned copy of documentation like your IRS nonprofit determination letter. It's not usually a huge amount of paperwork. I actually, in all the times that I have verified MPAC's nonprofit status. I don't actually remember anything about it because it wasn't a big deal. So there's a pretty low barrier to that as long as you have that documentation. So after you do that, when you purchase products through TechSoup, you will pay an admin fee, and then you will receive a fulfillment email with a link or a code to download the product or access that subscription. And those are things that you would do directly from the company. So like Adobe or Intuit is where you'd go to follow those instructions to access those things. And the specific products I wanted to highlight, just to give you some examples, are ones, some of these are things that MPAC uses, like we certainly use QuickBooks Online, great discount there. We get a really great discount, I think, on Wix website hosting. I'm also using it for this Zoom professional account and for some bias protection software. And other popular tools are things like Constant Contact, which is an email marketing service. There's project management tools like Asana and Monday. You can get a discounted GrantStation subscription to access that database at certain times during the year, but I will talk about that more in depth in a couple of slides because there's actually a better place to get that. You can get Adobe products through this if that's something that you want to use. There's also some hardware discounts, and those are free to sign up for. And if you're going to like buy a computer or something like that, you might want to check out that option. So one thing I wanted to note with the email marketing software is that you'll want to do the math, because different services will offer their services priced in different ways. Some do it based on how many contacts you have in your list. Some do it based on how many campaigns you send in a month, or how many individual emails you send in a month. And so depending on how that shakes out with or without your discount, there may be other things to consider aside from what TechSoup offers. So just go ahead and get out your calculator and do the math. The other reason TechSoup is worth checking out is because there are companies offering free subscriptions or discounted products, and you might discover them through TechSoup. You might not really need to go through TechSoup to access them if they have another way for you to do that, but it's one way to see what is out there available to you, or specifically as like a nonprofit deal. And lastly, before we move on, one caveat about using the TechSoup discount is that sometimes renewing your subscription can be a little bit awkward. You have to look carefully at the instructions for doing that. You go back into TechSoup and you pay that admin fee, and then you have to follow their specific instructions on how to renew your subscription. You want to be careful because you might accidentally end up paying the full price if it renews automatically without you going through these steps. So just pay attention to the instructions, make sure that renewals are available, or if it's a one-time thing, you might have to contact, a help desk for that specific product. This has actually happened to me where somebody insisted that it was only a 1-year discount, and I showed them the language from TechSoup that said that you can renew it year after year, and they said, "Oh, okay, our bad," and they let me renew one of the subscriptions that I had. Let's see, we've got a request for everyone to please mute if you don't mind. But if you have a question, feel free to come off mute and let me know. And I'm still watching the chat in case you have anything come up. Okay, so that's TechSoup. That's a big one. Any questions on TechSoup so far? All right. The next one is Google Workspace for nonprofits. If you are okay with Google, some people aren't, but it's really useful. I use it a lot. I started using it a long time ago, and I kind of can't get away from it now, but it's really useful, and they offer some of its best tools for free for nonprofits. I did a little screenshot of that $0 price that we get when we apply for them. So you can get branded email, which means that you can get an account. Like for me, I have one that says that is info@mtperformingarts.org. That's a branded email instead of going and getting a free account, which would be like, MPAC@gmail or mtperformingarts@gmail. That's a branded email. You get a lot of cloud storage, and you also get your Google ad grants, which is up to $10,000 of an in-kind donation in ad grants. That has to do with search results. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I just want you to know that it's available. You do have to verify your 501c3 status, and they use a third party called GoodStack in order to do that. And this can be kind of a useful process to go through because there may be other companies out there that offer nonprofit benefits and also use GoodStack. There's a few third parties like that, and you might see them. GoodStack also has its own menu of nonprofit discounts. I'm less familiar with those, and I'm pretty sure the catalog is a lot smaller than TechSoup, but that might be something you want to explore if you do go through that process. All right. My favorite things about using Google Workspace are, of course, email. And my life is ruled by a Google Calendar, so I use that. I also use an appointment scheduler. So if you get an email from me and you see the link that says schedule a time to talk, that opens up an appointment scheduler that's linked to my calendar, and you can just pick a time instead of having us exchange 5 emails about it. I like that a lot. And Google Drive is a big thing. Google Drive comes with apps that are word processors, there's spreadsheets, there's presentation software, kind of like PowerPoint. If you don't want to use Microsoft Office, using the Google Drive apps is a really good option. I also like that you can very easily share documents that are live. So if I share a document with my board, like say the agenda for our upcoming retreat, and I'm editing it, they'll see all of the edits that I make. And I don't have to like resend a new version of it. So I like that a lot. I also like that there's so much storage, and it's compatible with both Microsoft and Apple files. So if you've got somebody that's sending you pages and Word documents, you can open both of those in your Google Drive. I also use Google Keep, which is basically an electronic version of Post-it notes, and they're very glorified Post-it notes, and it keeps my desk clean. I also highlighted the search function and put that in bold because I find it to be very reliable. You do have to search for things in the different apps that it has, like searching in Drive is different from searching in your email or your calendar and your Keep, but I find that it's very reliable. And if I can remember a couple of the words of the thing that I'm looking for, I can usually find it when I'm using that search function. One tip, if you do just use Google Drive or get Google Workspace, you do have to use the apps in a browser. They're web-based products. And if you want to work offline, you have to designate those files as for offline access before you do that. And you have to do that on the device that you plan to use. So if I'm taking my laptop on a plane, while I'm in the airport or at home, I go through my Google Drive, plan ahead on what I'm going to work on the plane if I'm going to do that, and I'll designate as work offline, and then I'll still be able to access it. So that's the Google Drive. I also have one other, I call it my Google secret weapon. It's not actually, I don't use it as part of Google Workspace. It's Google Voice, and I use Google Voice to have a phone number that's dedicated to MPAC. It works with an app on my phone, which I can use to make calls from that designated phone number. I can text from it. I can get voicemail on it. You can get one free phone number if you are using the free version. You can have calls forwarded to your actual phone, so it'll ring like it normally would. And you can get voicemail and text transcriptions in your email inbox. And I really like this because I need a 406 area code in Montana. If somebody sees that I'm calling from 408, I don't know if I think I just need a 406 area code. I'm just going to leave it at that. And it also helps with me personally establishing some like work-life balance, because I can turn the app off or disconnect it from forwarding to my phone if I'm, offline. And I'm also a millennial, and I don't like voicemail. I can't really explain why. I just don't like it. So I would rather read voicemails that are transcribed. And I also like the fact that these end up in my email inbox, because my email inbox is my to-do list. And If it stays in my voicemail or in a text message, I might forget to respond to that request if it's related to MPAC, and it's really important that that doesn't happen. So those are some of the greatest things. The other wonderful thing is that you can pass on this Google Voice account to the next person that needs to take over your communications responsibility, or you can share it. Like, say you have a volunteer board and there's a group of people that sort of help out with this. They can all get the app and log in, or have the login and see what communication is happening that they might need to respond to that came through the phone or through texting. If you do decide to use this and you want to use the free version, make sure that you do not use an account that's associated with a Google Workspace account or a Pro account. You'll want to use one of their free email accounts that ends in @gmail.com. And when you get to this page, you want to click on the For Personal Use button, and then it will be free. You can, there's nothing wrong with paying for it, but if you want to use the free version, that's how you would do it. So that is Google Voice. Going on, Microsoft 365. If you do like Microsoft Office products, the good news is that they are available for free. Much like the other things, you do have to verify your nonprofit's status, but it's not a big deal, and it is completely free. And you get all of the usual apps that Microsoft is known for. I don't really have much else to share about this because Microsoft Office has been around for so long, and we're all pretty familiar with their programs. So I'm going to keep going unless there's any questions. All right, the last one is Canva. And I want you to know that this presentation and almost everything that MPAC has put on the internet for the last couple of years was made in Canva. Maybe, I think I might have used Microsoft Publisher for a couple things, but most of it's in Canva. And it's free for 501c3s. I don't think it's free for 501c4s, but I'm pretty sure it's free for all 501c3s. And if you don't have a graphic designer on staff or on your board or available to you, this is a nice option to have. There's a free version for individual use that doesn't have all the features, but it's pretty easy to sign up for that and try it out if you just want to explore before going for the full free pro version. And when you do go for that free version, you, again, you verify your nonprofit status, not a big deal, and you get full access to all of the editing features, templates, stock photos, and stock graphics, and many third-party apps that can help you make the thing that you want to make. I like it a lot because it's easy for me to establish what MPAC's brand colors are and the fonts that I want to use consistently, and apply that to all of the projects that I do. It's easy to resize projects for different uses. So if I make an announcement about, say, our conference coming up, and I make it for as an email header or something, but then I want to change it so it looks like it's in the dimensions of a story for Instagram, it's easy to do that. There's also quite a few respectable templates. Sometimes I'll use the template itself. Sometimes I will just look at them to get some ideas, and you can combine elements of different templates to achieve what you want. There's video editing that is pretty easy to use as well. And sharing projects either for review or for publishing is pretty easy as well. There are definitely a couple of Canva presentations that are embedded in the MPAC website that, all I had to do was make it in Canva, get the code, and put that on our Wix website. There's the app integration for image editing, and embedding documents in different ways is also really useful. One thing to know is that it's less powerful than, say, like Adobe InDesign or other Adobe products, but the learning curve is much more manageable for those like me that don't have formal training with Adobe or other design products. If you are someone that has opened up InDesign or some other software and you're really overwhelmed and you have to read help tutorials and watch how-to videos, and that's getting to be a bit much for you, Canva might be something to try. All right, so last couple of things on these resources. These are always, there's always a free version of these things and they're really useful. Not too much to explain for them. For social media posting and scheduling, I use the Meta Facebook Business tool. That's just part of Facebook and Instagram. I use a site called Buffer for scheduling social media posts on Threads, and I use it for MPAC's link in bio, which is linked in its Instagram profile. I also use two sites called Bitly and TinyCC to create QR codes and short URLs. Linktree is another option for a link in bio page if you don't want to use Buffer. And all of these have free versions that you can use. Some of them might have limited features, but you can always start out with the free version. And I have not actually gone to paying for any of it yet. I've made it works for me. I wanted to bring up Doodle because that's a great way to get availability. Like say if you have a board meeting and you want to find the one time that all 11 people or the whole group could meet, and instead of exchanging 25 emails, you could just have them fill out the poll. And Jill can speak to this because I send them doodle polls all the time. Last thing is a site called Pexels, which has several free stock photos, and they actually all look quite good. So if you're looking for that to add something to your website or something in print, that's a great option. And they're also they're free and they're licensed for you to go ahead and use. So you don't have to, you won't be charged for them. Some of them might specify that you have to be careful because some of them are licensed for whatever use and some of them are licensed only for personal use. So you have to double check and see what it's available for. Last slide on our resources. There is an article that recently went out from Arts Midwest called The Nonprofit Guide to Free and Discounted Software. There's a link there so you can go check that out. And by the way, if you could cope with more emails, signing up for newsletters from organizations like Arts Midwest or other arts advocacy organizations or nonprofit support groups, that's a good way to stay in the know about these things. But it is signing up for more emails. And then the last thing, which I am delighted to bring up, is the Montana Nonprofit Association, or MNA. This is our state's nonprofit association. If you or anybody listening to this recording is from a different state, I encourage you to go and check out your own nonprofit association and at least sign up for the newsletter. MNA in Montana is really wonderful. They have a grant station discount that beats TechSoup's discount, and it is available all year long. And that's really nice if you are looking for a grant database. They also have other shared group subscriptions for things that they'll share with their members from time to time. Right now, we're using a program called My Board Packet to securely share board materials. That's one example. They also have discounts on things like directors and officers insurance, and even some group health insurance options that are worth considering if your nonprofit happens to be bigger, but you're looking for other options for that for employees. They have a directory of recommended vendors that you can peruse if you're looking for a certain type of service. And they have a lot of professional development and community convenings, which I find really valuable. Sometimes it's nice to be in a Zoom meeting with a handful of other people working in nonprofits and talk about finance or talk about marketing or talk about development. And I always learn a lot, even just in conversation with those folks. MNA in Montana is a really superb association, and it's actually been a model for other states in the past. So I would suggest, if anything, at least go check out their website and sign up for their free newsletter. All right, any questions so far before we go on to section 2? All right, so marketing and communications fundamentals. I just want to address that sometimes marketing seems like an iffy word. People think of it as sales, but it's not really that either. Marketing is all the stuff that you do that leads up to a sale, but they're not exactly the same thing. And I've come to think of marketing as connecting what you offer to the people who already want it or need it. And in a for-profit corporation, that's always transactional. And with nonprofits, like the organizations we work with, sometimes it is transactional and sometimes it's not. In reality, we know that things like earned revenue in terms of ticket sales, it doesn't fully cover the cost of our expenses, but it helps. And we have grants, donations, and other forms of support to bridge that gap. So going on to these fundamentals. The first thing to think about is, what are your goals? And I just put down some examples of goals you might have at any point in the season. Getting patrons acquainted with a new ticketing system is interesting, because you could sort of replace new ticketing system with anything that is new, because change is always hard if people are used to doing things a certain way. Getting support for your series could mean a lot of different things. So if that's your goal, it might be good to define exactly what support means to you in this case. Like, is it buying a subscription instead of one ticket? Is it donating? Is it bringing new audience members or engaging in social media? So it's good to think about that, and don't be too greedy and just say all of it, because different goals will need different treatments. Some will involve scaffolding from prior accomplishments. For example, you might need to do the first one, which is like build awareness, and then get some patrons to attend, or some new patrons to attend, before you do something like invite them to buy the whole series next year, or make a donation. The next thing I would think about is, what are the tools that you have to achieve the goals? And this could be a lot of different things. These are, again, just some of the main obvious things that come to mind. Print is flyers or posters or mail. It can be kind of expensive because you have to have someone to design it, then you have to pay for printing or get an in-kind donation, which is great if you do. And then postage might be involved if you're mailing things. Having a physical location can be a tool. Not everyone has this, and not every location is conducive to attracting attention. Advertising is another tool. If you have an active local paper that's widely distributed, that's a great thing to consider. It's getting more and more expensive, and depending on your community and how people, what people's preferences are, print may be hard to justify. Digital journalism might be something to consider, as tracking like clicks and impressions is something that's available, and sometimes that's what you're charged on. So at least you're getting some kind of interaction when you pay for it. That actually is something that came up in Great Falls, where I live right now. The Tribune it's basically like went away, and that happened after I moved here about 8 or 9 years ago, and now there's a digital newspaper that is pretty widely distributed, and I find that a lot of people in my community now rely on that digital newspaper that comes in the email. The last one, digital marketing, includes websites, social media, email, and even like some sponsored searches if you go the Google Ad Grants way. That's what I'm going to talk about and focus on for now. Beyond paying for your website hosting and your marketing service or subscription, it mostly costs time, but I like digital tools because they offer a lot of flexibility. All right, the next thing to consider is, who is your audience and who is your target audience? And it's okay if there's some overlap, or if you're reaching for both at the same time. Does it make sense? Your current audience versus your desired or target audience is something to think about. Can you describe their characteristics or traits or behaviors, job status, family status? If your target is concert attendees that are children for a special program that's for children, do you need to focus on the moms or the dads or the grandparents in your communication? Who's going to take them? Get that ticket. Where can you find them? In small rural towns, there might be an actual physical location that people gather that's reliable for getting the word out about something. There might also be a specific digital platform that your community prefers. And it can be a combination of these things too. how do they get information about things happening in the community? For instance, if your target audience is local business sponsors, is there a local chamber of commerce that is a good avenue for getting a hold of those folks? And you can also always ask your audience. You can ask the regular attendees or new patrons or new residents to share information about these questions. And when you do have a conversation with a loyal patron or somebody that just had like a great experience, I encourage you to pay attention to the language that they use when they describe what brings them to the show or what inspired them to decide to go and get season tickets. Because the way that they explain it on their own can tell you, A, what you're doing right and should keep doing, and B, it will give you some language to think about when crafting your future messaging. Again, I would say don't get too greedy and like aim for everybody because it can be overwhelming and it might make things less effective. And I have one little thing to share. Can you guys see the Instagram post? It's a bunch of ping pong balls falling down the stairs. And they're all aimed at this. Well, they're not aimed at anything, but there's a glass that's like the goal and none of them fall in the glass. So yeah, don't get too greedy. Try to be a little bit targeted, not to use like to overuse that word when you think about that. All right, we're almost done with this section. There's just a couple more slides to go. I brought up the 5 steps in the consumer decision-making process, not because I thought of it, somebody else, I mean, this is just on the internet and it's a concept that I'm familiar with, and it's familiar to all kinds of marketing people. And there are things to just keep in mind as you're thinking about the tools you want to keep in use or maybe introduce. So let's just go over those real quick. 1, problem recognition. The person recognizes the need for a service or product. For example, I have nothing to do this weekend. 2, information search. They gather information. At this point, does your venue or series come up in a Google search? Or like what does come up in a Google search when somebody looks for you? Is there a community calendar that people would look for? Or do you know that they just like go to a certain section of the newspaper and look there? Alternatives evaluation. They weigh the choices against comparable alternatives. And this can be a challenge anywhere. Big busy cities have a lot of competing events, while in small towns, there might be less happening, but you have to be careful that your events don't conflict with things like, there might be a basketball game or some other school concert where no matter what you do, everybody's going to show up to the basketball game instead of your concert, just because that's how it works. And I added an extra step, and I just realized that this could actually happen before or after number 4. It could be either 3.1 or 4.1, and that is stalling, forgetting, and procrastination. Anybody can do that after they make a purchase decision or leading up to it. And this, this happens to me myself all the time. I have lived in Great Falls for 8 or 9 years, and I've always known that the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center is really wonderful, and I've heard wonderful things about it. And I have been planning to go, but it took until this year for me to actually make the time to go. So even though I decided I wanted to go like years ago, and I highly recommend it. It's a great museum. Number 4, there's a purchase decision. They make the actual purchase. At this point, you want to think about like, can this be done ahead of time, ahead of the event, or can it be done online? Because forgetting and changing one's mind is kind of a liability up until this point, if there are no options. Not everybody has that option, but if you do, it's something to think about. And then there is post-purchase evaluation. The person reflects on the choice or purchase that they made. In our case, with events, the person might be thinking, well, we'll assume they had a wonderful time. They might think, oh, that was really awesome. And they might be wondering, when's the next concert? Or does it happen over the summer? Or when does the next season start? And what are the things that you have provided to make it easy for them to come back when they are going through this thought process? Can they sign up for an email list? Can they take home a calendar of next year's events now that it's May and most of us are having our last concerts? So yeah, what tools do you have to meet them at that point? So almost done. What does it take to get people to do the thing you're asking them to do? So keep your main goals in mind. Don't take on the world. Understand who you are talking to, where to send the message, how to send the message, and what it should sound like. And this might dictate what kind of communications tools you decide to use. Meet your audience at every stage of that consumer process so they can move on to the next step. Is it easy for them to find or share info? Can they share a link or a Facebook event? I know for myself personally, I'm much more inclined to follow through with trying something new if I can quickly text a link to my husband and he says, oh, I agree, that sounds really cool. And he and I both agree together that we actually want to go do it. Well, then we have two people trying to make it happen while we're also procrastinating and forgetting. So that's something to consider. Is there confusing information out there that's on an old site? If that comes up when you do that Google search on your own organization, you'll want to deal with that. And yeah, and lastly, it is okay to feel like you're treating your audience like a forgetful teenager. They need many reminders, and even your loyal patrons need multiple reminders. That's just life. Life is busy, so we need lots of reminders. And so just put the information out there several times and in different ways. And this is to accommodate that those steps in that consumer process that are 3.1 and 4.1, where there's stalling and procrastination. And you can combine all the tools that you have. The other thing to consider is there's this acronym that you may or may not have heard of. It's called TLDR. Too long, didn't read. And that's when that maybe they get too much information or too many words and they just, they don't have enough time to read the whole thing, or they don't want to. That happens a lot. And it's mostly an issue for email campaigns and web pages with a lot of information. Nobody reads everything, no matter how much work you put into writing. So you can control what they will retain by either keeping it really short, using brevity, or by using some formatting to make sure that the most important things stand out. So if there's an event coming up, like say, Champagne Sunday is coming to play a concert, you might just put down like Champagne Sunday concert, the date, the time, link to a ticket. And if somebody's got a longer attention span, sure, you can use a little bit of prose and write a paragraph or two to describe them. But that doesn't all have to be text at the same size. Just, highlight the things that will get them to click on that link and go buy the ticket, or, do what they need to do to make it there. So those are our marketing fundamentals. Does anybody have any questions so far? I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to keep on going. Great. I think we're doing good on time. Part 3, tools plus concepts. And I'm going to describe my process and, take it from what is useful to you. So I usually think about starting with the event and working backwards on a calendar. The closer you get to the event, the more communications activity you might have, unless your event is already sold out. And even then, you still might want to show off about that and be actively saying, oh, it's sold out, we're looking forward to it. Because everybody who's not going to go to that event is going to think, wow, that must be really awesome. I wish I had, gotten off my butt and got a ticket, but I'll make sure to get the next one. So it's still good to communicate that. So building awareness and commitment prior to that period is something you can do over time. You can think about offering an incentive for getting a ticket early. Is there a discount that's available? Or like if they buy a ticket by a certain date, do they get a sticker or something? I think I've also seen here in Great Falls, sometimes folks will do raise a pint night at a local brew pub, and they'll sell tickets at that event. And it's building awareness, potentially getting support if people are buying products that donate a percentage to their organization that night, and they're hopefully buying tickets too. Can you build excitement and anticipation prior to opening ticket sales? That's a great option to consider too, especially if you have a full series. And this sounds like a lot, and sometimes it feels like it is, because what it comes down to is how many ways can you say the same call to action and have it not like be exactly the same thing all of the time. You can get help from your artist if they have news to share, or you could sort of like hold back details and share them, one at a time in each post or in each email. Also, if you are tired of finding 50 ways to say the same thing, as happens to me, you can use artificial intelligence to help you out. And I have actually done this. You can have AI write social media posts for you, and you can ask it to write as many as you think you need. And I shouldn't say write, I should say draft, because whatever they put together, like, you should definitely review and edit to make it, exactly what it should be. But it's a good start. You can use social media scheduler tools like Meta or Facebook Business or Buffer. And you can use email marketing software as well to schedule these messages in advance, which is really nice, because then you could just sit down and get out your messaging for the next 2 weeks or the next month, and then just go do something else. You don't have to actually do marketing every single day. It's kind of tiresome if you do, but thankfully there is scheduling. For me, when I am planning, the thing that works for me is a simple spreadsheet. And this is a screenshot from last year. Let's see. I like using this spreadsheet because it's easy for me to just copy and paste the text. I have some notes in one column about what image I'm going to use along with it, if it's for that. I'll highlight which ones are emails. I can put in deadlines. I think this was leading up to a conference, so T-7 weeks is T-7 weeks to our conference to help me decide what I'm going to write. I added little emojis under the topic column just so I can get like a visual representation of like what I'm posting about, because people will get tired of me saying, come to the conference, come to the conference, come to the conference. I can't do that too many times in a row, because it's too much of the same thing. So I'll try to space it out with some other content, and we'll talk about that in a bit. A lot of this was drafted by AI too, so definitely consider that as a tool. And there's a lot of AI apps that are free. All right, so let's go into our tools. The first and probably most important one is a website, if you have one. It's your digital venue. It's a landing place for anyone looking for you on the web. And it's always there, whether you are working on it or doing anything with it or not. So it's working for you all the time. You don't actually need a computer science degree or knowledge of coding to get a website. There are a lot of options out there for building it. Like Squarespace is a popular drag and drop option. If this is a barrier to you, please contact me, and I'd be happy to just talk to you about what your options are and what sounds feasible to you. Again, I build websites for businesses and organizations. And a lot of time what I do is I'll build it and I'll spend an hour or two training the client, and then I send them on their merry way to just maintain it themselves. And it's usually pretty manageable. So it's possible for not to be a total pain in the butt, or it costs a lot of money. The most basic costs are domain registration, which is $13 to $20 a year, and then hosting, which is about that much per month. And there are discounts depending on if you commit to like a full year or multiple years, depending on the service you use. There are free options for the hosting part, and the only thing with that is the company will leave their branding on the website somewhere. So yeah, it takes some time, but once it's done, it's a great tool. Can you use a Facebook page as a website? Yes, but it's not exactly the same thing. There are some limitations, but you can. For one thing, not everyone necessarily has Facebook. So you might want to consider having additional accounts. Not everyone uses social media, so think about your audience and who you might not be reaching if that's what you're focusing on. And it looks a little bit more legitimate to have a dedicated website if you can manage it. And also websites and digital communication are an accessibility tool, an issue. Having a site that works and is easily accessible to everyone, regardless of whether they use social media or not, is a way to be accessible, if that is a priority for your organization. I do strongly recommend the investment in this. And outside of this workshop, like I said, I'm happy to talk about options for making it happen. If that's not possible right now, but you want to have some sort of web presence, I would recommend some temporary solutions like, at least having a Facebook page, not a personal account, but a page, and make sure that your posts have current information about upcoming events, and better yet, use the Facebook events portion or there's like an events section of Facebook where you can create events, and they're easy to share and have people RSVP to them. You can also use Linktree, Buffer, or another like link in bio type of page to host info about your series that does not require somebody to log into social media. And by that, I can show you an example. Here is MPAC's link in bio page. So if we had no website, we could at least have this short URL, mpac.start.page, and these buttons and these social links, like it's all very easily editable. You can add other practical information there, like your mission or links to other things. I mostly just use it for as the thing that sort of goes along with our Instagram account, but this is an option that I've seen, and I've also seen artists use this as well when they're first starting out and they don't yet have a full-on website. So that's something to consider in conjunction with a social media profile. All right. Going on, website checklist. So you'll want to make sure you have your basic info, your event info, like a calendar would be fine, or a list of events with dates, instructions on how to buy tickets, where the events are located. Additional things to consider is the option to emphasize whatever the next event is. And so that was something that you could change throughout the season if you have that option or are comfortable doing that. If you can accept donations online, that's a great link to have there. Social media and email subscriptions and past season info. And I'll just mention, I am aware some people might be waiting for me to talk about SEO or search engine optimization. That's kind of a big topic, and it changes a lot and it changes quickly. So we should have a workshop on that. I might hire someone else to do it if we do, but that is a lot of times if you get a host where it's easy for you to build the website, they usually take care of a lot of the SEO details for you. You might have to follow instructions or go through their prompts to do it, but I'm gonna not dive into that really huge detail right now. You can also look around at your peers, look at what other organizations like yours do and what they have out there to get some inspiration and ideas. All right, next couple of things are scheduled messaging. One is email. I know everyone complains about getting too many emails, but they also complain when they don't receive information that they feel they're entitled to. So it's just a necessary evil. And sometimes, it can be fun and informative and completely positive as well. Popular email services abound. I find that they all essentially do the same thing. So I would pick one that's the most cost effective based on your usage rate or contact list. The nice thing about an email marketing program, like any of these, MailChimp, Constant Contact, or Bravo, is that you could track open and click rates to see how much people are responding to those messages. And you can also track unsubscribes after a campaign is sent, just to see, if that's signaling to you that maybe you're sending too many emails or there was something in it that somebody wasn't interested in. Consider how often you send, of course, because we don't want to receive too many emails, but just enough. What the purpose of the message, which can inform your audience who receives it. Again, beware of TLDR. So utilize formatting and changing font size or using bold to make sure that like the most important things stand out. Going on to social media. So there's a lot out there, and I feel like new ones keep getting invented, which bothers me because there's already more than I have time to deal with. So stick to where your audience is. If your audience isn't on TikTok, don't worry about TikTok. If they use Instagram more than Facebook, use Instagram or use both. It actually is pretty easy to do that. So you can use your content calendar that you made when you made that plan. And again, you can copy and paste your content into these posts and schedule them. Do use hashtags. These will help you get a little more visibility or reach new people. And you can also look at how other peer organizations use hashtags. It's pretty easy to do some research on this and see what's out there and how it's being used. Like I said, you can let AI help with drafting language, but do edit everything that it spits out. Whenever you can, tag other organizations or businesses. If say you're thanking somebody for a sponsorship, tag an artist's profile whenever you can. They're more likely to share it, and then your stuff will be seen by more people. Lastly, balance things out and have a little bit of fun. You can do this in a couple different ways. There are like milestones you can share, or history, or you can celebrate holidays. There is this social media content pillar concept that is out there. And I pulled this off of storychief.io. These are concepts that I've heard about in other marketing workshops where you can sort of mix up what you're putting on social media. So it's not always you asking patrons to buy a ticket or donate money. Like you're doing other things as well. So for education, you can share history, like I said. You can share a Throwback Thursday post. You can share a board highlight if you get a new board member or a new staff member. You can share some behind the scenes info if there's something interesting. You can entertain. Everybody does this on April Fool's Day. You can share something fun or silly that's happening at your venue or in the office. People love memes and GIFs. And sometimes you can hit multiple pillars at once. And so this picture of Cinderella was one example of that, where I was doing like a last minute reminder to turn in your showcase application, but also using something familiar and being kind of snarky about it. You can also promote is a little bit more obvious. This is sort of like classic marketing. There's a call to action. Please buy a ticket or donate to our fundraising campaign. Inspire is more mission oriented, maybe. You can share information about the outreach that you do. You can share audience posts if they're really neat, or audience testimonials. So there's a lot of options to mix things up and make it fun. And I had one more example of combining the entertainment one with a call to action, in case you saw the arts advocacy email that went out a few weeks ago. So yeah, trying to get people to act, but also, adding a little bit of fun to it, even though it's a very serious issue, arts advocacy right now. So that is what I have. And it's the top of the hour. I'm okay to stay on for a bit if you have questions for me. Hopefully you know more about what tools are available and they seem more accessible to you. And you have things to think about in terms of like what to consider when you are communicating the value of your event or your organization. So if you have questions, please feel free to come off mute or stick them in the chat. How does one use AI to promote an artist? So there is a given, thanks, Jill. That is a great question. And there is some give and take with that because you have to give AI something to work with. I have been using Google's version of it, which is Gemini. And I have, can you guys still see my screen? with all this text in here. Let's see, webinar description. You could take a document, say with their bio, and you can feed it, you can upload it to AI, or in this case, I uploaded it to Gemini. And I had an outline for this presentation of all the things I wanted to make sure I mentioned. And I told AI or told Gemini, this is an outline of talking points for a webinar. Can you create a brief description? And I actually did this for the website. So, so that is one way to do that. I don't know what AI programs will like do in terms of like reading a whole other website. I think you might have to spoon feed a little bit more to make sure that it's actually going to like create something based on facts. I know that sometimes if AI is doesn't have the information, it might just start making it up, and you might not be able to tell unless you know what it's supposed to be saying. So that's one thing to consider. You could throw in the bio with the dates for the concert and say something like, please write a handful of posts about this. And let's see, and I've definitely done that. Social media posts for booking conference. It spit all of this out for me for one of our last conferences. Let's see. Jim says that Canva allows you to schedule things you have created there directly to Facebook and Instagram. Yes, it does. I have done that too. I think that one reason I do like using Meta or Facebook Business to actually schedule it is because it helps visually confirm like how often things are going out or like how active things are. And I can see this sort of calendar version of what I posted and what's coming up. And you can look at it as a month as well. But yes, you can definitely do that from Canva. Ainsley says, I love using ChatGPT to create catchy language. Yes, that is helpful. Sometimes AI is slightly more hip than me. Makes me feel bad, but I appreciate it. We input links to the artist, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, website, and ask for a 2 to 3 sentence or whatever length you want, the description of the band, and what fans can expect. That's a great use of it. You may have seen also, this is not related to marketing, but it's related to things that save you time. And I learned this at an Montana M&A thing, which was you can ask it to draft policies that you and nobody else wants to write. So if you need to come up with like a policy and it's just, something really tedious, you can ask AI to do it for you because it's already, got access to everything under the sun in the internet. So that has saved me some time. It's by no means is it a finished product. It still has to be edited and reviewed, but it's at least an efficient way to throw spaghetti at the wall and have the spaghetti be something that is easier to work with. All right. Well, it looks like we are having folks drop off. If there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and end that for today. Oh, thanks, Avery, for the extra note on ChatGPT. Yeah, and it can learn from what you're doing if you keep on using it. That's great. Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any other questions or if any of this sparked any desire for workshops on a specific topic that I may have touched on but didn't dive fully into. We'll be planning that for next year. So yeah, thank you again. And if you guys are coming to the Presenter Spring meeting on, I think, May 21st, I'll see you then. Thank you so much. Have a good one.